Hi, my name is Toby Keeping. I'm the sales manager here at Swept, and in this two-part video, we're going to show you how to win 80% of your proposals. And the reason we know you're going to close 80% of your proposals is because we used to be a janitorial company, and this is the process and the system that we used to do just that. So let's start off with this particular part of the session is just going to be more the educational component. We will get into using the product that we used to go and win those contracts in the second half of the video. So first and foremost is that I need you to understand that janitorial is an easy business to get into. At least that is the common understanding, but that presents a whole lot of challenges as it relates to selling, because if it's easy to get into, it makes it a commodity-based environment. And that, from a customer perspective, your clients have a very hard time distinguishing one vendor from another and who could execute on the cleaning contract better than the other. It's very difficult for your customer to figure out who's different based on you all appearing to be quite similar. So you need to challenge yourself in how you talk about your company, how you present what it is that you do, and last and certainly not least is understanding what it is that the customer is expecting from you and the real root cause by which they've picked up the phone and are asking you for a proposal. So what I want to do is highlight first off, of course, the importance of good questions. Any sales training process you go through will speak about the value of questions, and the most important piece that you can do to win more deals is to ask inquisitive, thought-provoking questions of your clients. So for example, when the phone rings or someone puts an inquiry on your website, they have experienced what we'll call a surface pain. Cleaner didn't show up, there's a stain in the carpet that no cleaner seems to ever get right, whatever it might be, it's a surface level issue. That's probably the one that you're hearing about when that client calls you. If you're responding to just say, yes, we can clean that, yes, we can do that, you're just simply saying that you are a janitorial company, nothing different than the other 14 people they could call today. However, if your sales process asks inquisitive questions, Steve, I understand that stain in the carpet has been there a long time. Can you maybe share what impact, if any, that's having in your business? You're a marketing company. Does that stain in the front hall cause a negative implication for your potential customers walking through? Does that lead to a lack of trust in terms of your ability to impress their clients as a marketing firm? Help me understand why this stain is so prominent or not. Let me know if there's an issue behind that stain. Questions like that help you demonstrate two things. One, it demonstrates to the client that you're actually interested in hearing about their problem so that you might understand how to solve it. Number two is that by asking a question, you're getting the customer to speak more about the problems that they're having, not just about this particular surface pain, but potentially the professional issue that it's kind of driving towards and any personal issues that come with it, come attached to it. If you're the office manager at this marketing company, chances are you've been assigned the responsibility for cleaning. So if the cleaning company that you work with is failing you, it's a personal reflection on your job performance. Understanding those things is really important. So make sure you take time to ask questions to try and drive as close to the professional and personal pain that the service issue is causing. And what you will do is you will move from answering questions about what you do as a janitorial company and more into what it is that your company is trying to solve for that individual prospective customer. Again, huge delta between the value that one janitorial company would bring versus the other. And again, we've put into the worksheets some really good questions for you to ask your customers when they call so that you can drive further into that pain so that you understand what it is that they're experiencing. So we'll talk a little bit about, understanding what it is that client is really looking for and having that understood well in advance of you going to do a walkthrough for that potential client. But here are the 5 kind of key points or pinnacles, if you will, that we used when we were out selling. And these are a little bit different. There's a ton of material out there in terms of sales process and upfront contracts and all sorts of different kind of philosophies. These are 5 things that are specific that we used from a janitorial perspective. So first off was spend not more than 15 to 20% of the time talking about your cleaning process, like how you were going to clean, the equipment you used, any of that stuff, because quite frankly, your customer could not care less about cleaning. It is a means to an end for them, in the same way that I, as a technology salesperson, will have very little success if I tried to speak with you about, hey, do you want to talk about janitorial technology? It's the last thing on your mind, right? So you need to understand that for your customers, as enthralled with the new process or new equipment that you have, it probably does not impress your customers one iota. So you need to spend more time asking questions and speaking to how you're different, what it is that your company does that's better than another company that's not specific to the janitorial side itself. Understand that you need to be asking more questions, and if the customer is talking, the more they talk, the better off you are, because your understanding of what they're looking for is significantly more enhanced. For us, we knew that every company that we were competing against, because we asked our clients, and we asked the ones that we lost to as well, we understood that just about every janitorial company that we competed against in our local market said the exact same thing in their sales pitch. And quite frankly, we did too in the early days as well, and I'm willing to bet some of you probably do the same. At the end of the day, what they were saying was, we're the best janitorial company in the city, we've got the best products, we've got the best team, and we use green cleaning products as well. Right? Does that sound familiar? Well, if it sounds familiar to you, I assure you that every potential buyer you talk to has heard it 4 times as well. And quite frankly, it's really hard to distinguish when someone says they're the best janitorial company in the city, someone of the 10 proposals that they've got is outright lying. So don't spread things that you can't justify or validate. It discredits yourself. It ruins the level of trust that the customer has provided to you in the early stage of that relationship. Don't do that to yourself. Earn trust, don't lose it. So understand what your competitors are saying, and we'll speak to how that can be important when we show you the product demo, because we kind of completely flipped that on its ear and addressed it head on and made the other competitors look bad because we were using something completely different. So understand what your competitors are saying and have a position that makes yours stand out. Now, a lot of people talk about relationship selling. Understanding that, oh, Johnny works with mommy and blah, 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 like understanding those interpersonal connections that allow you to sell. Yes, they're valuable. Not going to say that they're not. But from a janitorial perspective, or frankly, in any commoditized service offering, they can be a huge challenge as well. While yes, Steve, who runs an engineering company, both your kids play in the same soccer team, yeah, that might get you through the door. But what's likely to happen is, because of the relationship, you might get in the door to talk to him about your services, but quite often what's going to happen is he's going to expect a discount by virtue of that relationship as well. So the relationship or pre-existing, common interest, that whole, concept was good to crack the door open. But what we found is we were asked to, discount our services because of that relationship, and that frankly wasn't acceptable. So we tried to downplay any of those pre-existing relationships, or not to go in and win based on relationship alone. We had to create a value and demonstrate that for every client. So just be mindful that that can be a trap door for you. Reframing the customer's expectations. If you have talked to any potential buyer of janitorial services, an office manager or another, an owner of a company, and they've bought janitorial from another company 2, 3, 4 times over the past 5, 10 years, whatever it may be, you'll understand that they very quickly don't want to be talking to you about janitorial. They've got a business to run. They have other tasks. Cleaning is a means to an end. It is not something they view with a high degree of regard, quite frankly. So a lot of times you're challenged. So you have to understand ways that help them understand that you're different. telling them, things that they should be looking for when they're hiring another contractor. Mary, do you understand the implications of insurance as it relates to a service company like ourselves coming in and working for you? No? Well, here's some guidelines that I'd like to share with you. Here's a 2-page PDF that we did up to highlight, a little bit about our insurance situation and why it's important to clients like you to make sure that others who you're looking to work with that come into your office that you understand why this is a huge piece that you should be looking for. So, frankly, company your size, you shouldn't have anyone walk through the door unless they've got $2 million of insurance and all their employees are blah, 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 whatever it might be. Right? Those are things that you're helping educate your client. Again, that is building trust. If you can educate your customer, that builds trust. So look for ways that you can reframe their expectations of what a janitorial company should be providing them with, whether it's knowledge, new processes, things like that. Make sure you're educating your client. And the last piece here is to let them experience your process. And that's a hard one. But, we used to give away, we used to do free cleaning. We'd do a clean for someone. It would help us get acclimated to the environment. We knew what our commitment was going to be. We didn't do it for every client, but certainly some we did. I'm not suggesting that is the thing you should do because we later evolved that we wouldn't do that. We had built enough technology and process that made us unique that was how we were able to demonstrate for a client. And this is exactly what I'll be showing you in a moment. But whether it's a process you have, whether it is a system that you've built, whether it is a unique, tool, whatever it is, let the client experience that as soon as possible into your process. Because if that is how you define yourself as being different from the others, simply speaking to it will not gain the level of trust from the client. They're going to want to know and see that with confidence and understand that that has a direct impact on them. So be sure to involve that into your process as soon as you possibly can. So that is, how we won 80% of our proposals, and we're confident that when we show you how the software works, you're going to be able to do the same. So one thing that I wanted to just quickly highlight for you is that, when we did a survey of Google through Google to 500 business owners, last year, 2016, what we found is that when we asked if they were hiring a janitorial company, how important would technology for the purpose of, better communication and quality, how would that influence their decision to buy from that company? And it was profound. It was surprising to us. So this speaks to the importance of that last point of letting them experience your process. People are expecting things differently than they were 5, 10, even 15 years ago, obviously. And that obviously, parlays into janitorial as well. So you have to evolve, and certainly this is something that we're going to be speaking to in the next few minutes. So the bar is really low at the end of the day. The bar is low for what most janitorial companies are doing, and their expectations of the client expectations on you are increasing. So the bar is low. There's lots of room for even the smallest janitorial to go in and create waves with their customers. So the new sales approach, let's just quickly kind of wrap this up on the theoretical side, is first and foremost is making sure that you ask really, really good questions to get you from that surface level pain, the issue is the carpet stained, and into understanding what the impact of that stain is on their business and or the people within that office space or their customers. The further you can get into that, the significantly better off you will be. And you need to document those, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Second is listen. Most salespeople are geared to talk. The more you can listen, the better off you'll be. Not only will it create a better understanding of what the customer is looking for, number two is the longer the customer speaks, the more they are hearing themselves talk about the problem that they face. And that is of huge importance, because if they're not talking about how negative the situation is, they're not truly feeling that, and they're not identifying that it was you that helped them feel that. Next, you need to reframe their expectations. So again, asking questions that helps them understand how you're different, or that you're willing to educate them on something that's important to their process in selecting a janitorial company. Whatever that may be, try and knock them off guard a little bit in a positive way that helps you be perceived differently than all the others. And again, similar to that is challenge them. Ask them things that they don't understand about janitorial or the selection of janitorial companies that will allow you to win more contracts. Okay? So the next piece here is that when you're going in to see a customer, just before you go in and meet with that client, you want to have a bit of a plan of attack. And the first piece of that is to review and validate with that client all the things that you've spoken about previously. Understand the issues that they have. Speak to them and say, Mary, listen, when we talked on the phone last week, I just want to take a moment before we go into your space. You told us these were the things that were going wrong. Here's the scenario that you have. These are the typical types of surfaces that you expect cleaned and the frequency that we're looking for. Just want to validate, is anything different than that? These are the things you're expecting of the janitorial company who wins this contract? Yes. Helps the customer revisit exactly what they've told you, because they might have told someone else something different. So you need to validate what it is you're going in to quote on. Secondly, is that you need to review and validate the process. So, Mary, appreciate that update. Thank you so much. Before we do a walkthrough and look at your space, I just want to understand what is going to happen next. When we walk through your office space today, we expect, of course, you're going to want to see some numbers. Help me understand what your selection criteria is for making this decision. Is it simply budget? Are you looking for confidence in someone that they're going to be able to execute for you in the same way on the first day as they do a year from now? Help me understand what are the things that are driving your decision and what's important to you in making a selection of a janitorial company, and understanding the timeline and who's going to be involved in the buying process. If it's not just her, how do you get in front of the person of influence or the real decision maker? And it doesn't need to be long, but just understanding where you are in the process and who's involved, and understanding where you go next should be absolutely set before you do your walkthrough. When you do your walkthrough, you want to reframe the expectation of the client. You want to challenge them. You want to say, this is different than, how we're different, and give them an experience similar to, that last one, reframe. You want to give them an experience of something that you've built, used, or deploy, whether it's a process or a technology that allows you to show that client, to prove to them that you do something differently than all the other people knocking at their door. Okay? So with that, now we're going to take us into the second section. We're going to show you the platform that we used to win 80% of our contracts. Okay, so at this point, you've gone through, you've gotten some notes, you're walking into the customer's office, you've validated that you understand what it is they're looking for, you've validated what the next steps will be after today's conversation and who's going to be involved in it. You've gotten all those pieces squared up and you're ready to do a walkthrough. So we would ask our client to take us to the part of the office that was the most problematic with their current contractor, or the place that was the most important going forward if they were new to janitorial services. We wanted to get a sense of what that was. So we would invite the client to take us to that part of the space. They would give us details. We'd take some photos. We'd start to understand that space and what the requirements were and why it was important to them, ask as many questions. And when we felt like we were just about to move on, that's when we would pause and say to the client, listen, before we go much further, do you mind if we just take a moment, because I want to show you how we're different. I know you've probably heard from the other competitors who have been in to propose their services that they're the best company in the city and they use green products and they get the best crew. And, I'm not going to tell you all that, frankly. I'm not going to say the same thing as, the other people that have walked through ahead of me or will behind me. Frankly, we've got something that's different. I want to take a moment to show you. Would you be interested? They will say yes, of course. And we would say, we hire from the same talent pool of cleaners as every other company in the city. So it's really hard for one company to say they have the best team, where in fact we all hire from the same kind of pool of individuals. So what we think makes us different is not that we say our team is the best. We believe we've got a really strong management platform that allows us to manage our team in ways that almost no other company does. That's what makes us different. That's what gives us alerts when people are late. It's what gives us a certain assurance that things are being done on behalf of our client every single time, every single shift. So I want to give you a little bit of a view of that. So I'd like it if you could take my phone. So literally, we're handing the phone to the customer to let them experience what was so unique about us. We were putting it into their hands for the very tactile experience that they could see how we managed our team and what the impact of that was going to be to the service that we were going to provide to them. So, Mrs. Customer, Mr. Customer, as a manager, I want to walk you through a couple of things here just to showcase how important this is to us. So first off, if you could just hit locations. When I hit locations, it gives me an understanding of where, obviously I can go into some more detail here, and we will, but one of the first things is I can see which building we have cleaners currently working at. So I know when someone's at your location. I know when they're late for a shift. I know if they haven't shown up. So I have all those details around where my cleaners are so that, if there's any discrepancy in the services that we've talked about with you, we have a record of where people were. So for example, I'm going to show you going to the library now. What we just did in this one room, taking photographs and really understanding what it is that we have to provide to you in this location. If you could just go to the very bottom and see the cleaning instructions. Down at the bottom, there's a little button, instructions, that allows us to see exactly what it is that our customers want us to do at this property, right? So what's really cool here is that I can, scroll through all of this. It'll include images, for example. So those images we just took on our phone, they're going to show up in this report. And this is powerful because this is available to every cleaner, every shift they clean. Now, we want to have our cleaners stay with us for 10 years. That is a goal, but quite frankly, that's a pretty lofty goal. Turnover is pretty prominent in this industry. So what we've built here is a way that every time we have to replace a cleaner, which we hope we don't have to do, but it's likely to happen. I can't promise you we're going to have the same crew here for the next 10 years any more than you can promise that there's going to be no turnover in your company either. So what we've got here is a process that highlights for the cleaner who starts working for you next week versus the cleaner who might be here in a year and a half. The consistency of knowledge transferred between one to the other is fluid. They understand what they need to do every single shift, and they can order supplies at the bottom. So when they run out of something, they can share that with us. And when a problem arises, for example, they have a message board that allows them to communicate with managers. They can take photographs so that we see all of the things that are going on. Nothing falls through the cracks. And when they log out of a shift, we see that they signed out, but also if there was a problem. So just some of the points that we would talk to, literally in the first few minutes of meeting with a client, to very quickly delineate how different we were in how we managed our staff and what the impact of that was going to be to the quality and consistency that we as an organization were going to deliver at that client's location each and every week that we were there. Because at the end of the day, that office manager, that business owner, whatever it was, their goal is to focus on their business. Cleaning is something that needs to be taken care of, but they just wanted to know that we had a process in place that allowed us to be consistent week after week. And then we would also highlight that for the client, going back, speaking to the client on another thing, maybe this happened towards the end of the meeting. Adele, if you really feel like you've said a couple of times that the product that we've shown you is really powerful and you have belief that, we will execute really well for you, in an ongoing basis. One thing I just want to draw out from you is that you mentioned that with your current contractor, you're not really communicating very much with each other. And that's a challenge for us because as the customer, you're the most important person in our quality program. If our clients don't communicate with us, we are destined to fail. There will be a spot on the carpet that you don't tell us about that our cleaners just miss, and it's assumed it's okay. And then all of a sudden one day you're calling one of our competitors. So we want to give you an open line of communication that isn't formal by email. It's not form or informal by picking up the phone and talking to an account manager where you're talking all the time. We want to give you a really easy way to communicate with us. So there's a messages down at the bottom. See client messages. This is where you can communicate with us. So this is an example of a customer communicating with us about service issues. Hopefully they're small, and it gives us an opportunity to be in there and remediate that issue the same day, rather than it percolating over weeks and months by which you just don't talk to us. So communication is critical to us, both in terms of how we manage our team, but also how you manage us. So we will be inviting you to participate in using this product as well if you choose to be, one of our customers. So again, different way to position yourself. Hopefully this session has provided you with the theoretical on things to do, questions to ask when you're kind of get that call, and how to focus in on the pain that your customer is experiencing and what it is they're really looking for you to solve. So much so that when you go in to do a walkthrough, you now know how to focus on those objectives for the client, but also to very, very, very quickly present yourself as a unique service offering and a company that understands that your processes are what make you different in the sight of the customer and for your cleaners. So hopefully this session's been really valuable to you, and look forward to speaking with you in the next one.